Let's talk about everyone's favorite SpongeBob game. You know it, you love it. It's pretty relevant right now. It's none other than SpongeBob SquarePants Lights Camera Pants.
Kinda cringe bruh, everyone is talking about Battle for Bikini Bot.
Yes, the early to mid 2000s, truly the best time period the Earth has ever experienced. Such a peaceful time where everyone was in their homes watching reality TV shows like Fear Factor and Ninja Warrior. Those little schemers at Nickelodeon picked up on this and thought to themselves, "Easy money!" and thus pooped out SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants. Now don't worry, we ain't about to see SpongeBob eat some beef testicles. Oh, my bad, beef meatballs. Yeah, that's 2 total Drama Island references in one video. What about it? It's Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's 50th anniversary, and the director of the show, Gil Hammerstein, is on the hunt for someone to fill the supervillain role of the Sneaky Hermit. What is a Sneaky Hermit? I don't know, whatever this abomination is. His motivation for being evil is because his wife left him and took their house, so now he wants to steal every building in Bikini Bottom. Nice. The best contenders of this role just so happen to be the main cast of the actual show. Yeah, think about that for a good second. It's kind of funny if you think about it. For such an important TV special, you think they would get actors more qualified for the job? Unless we take Employee of the Month as canon to the universe's lore, where they actually are actors, but maybe this game came before that one on the timeline and thus kicked off their acting careers. To showcase that you can act goodly for Gil, you gotta do well in the 3 minigames per every audition spot, in which there are 8 of those, and whoever has the most points tallied up at the very end gets to be the Sneaky Hermit. Even though the minigames have almost nothing to do with the insert character's role in the TV special, like, okay, auditioning at the Krusty Krab for a waiter role makes sense, but they have you putting up stock and making Krabby Patties during rush hour. This is not an audition. This is free labor, Gil. You can't be doing this. The player's character who scored the highest across all 3 minigames per location gets put into that specific scene. While the story plays out the same no matter who wins which role, it is fun to see the different characters put their own unique spin on their dialogue throughout the scene.
The chum bucket! There's a fee for making dramatic announcements!
Oh, yes, thanks. Now where was...
To the chum bucket!
Thank you for dining at the Krusty Krab!
Oh, yes, thanks. Now where was I?
This should get you pumped up and wanting to win the minigames in order to see your favorite SpongeBob trademark character on the big screen. Does that same motivation hold up when you have to actually play the game?
Yes.
Let me go ahead and say, this ain't no Mario Party clone. There are no boards in sight, and the minigames are a lot longer than your typical 30-second to a minute Mario Party length. The game for the most part is fairly cut and dry and fast-paced, for the minigames also reflect this. Even so, the devs were scared that little kids' nanosecond long attention span would space out while playing, so they jam-packed the minigames with a constant barrage of one-liners while you play.
Stay with me! Feel my
Stay
with me! Big deal! Big deal! Stay with me!
You would think that these would get annoying, but even after the 50th time hearing them, they are still pretty funny. It's sort of like Banjo-Kazooie, where you are hearing mostly the same constant sound effects, but they never get old. Especially when you have Mr. Krabs yelling out booty over and over.
Booty! 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 Booty!
Analytical mathematical power.
Across the 24 story mode minigames, there's a good mix between 2v2 team games and free-for-all games. Under the 2v2 umbrella of minigames, there's the main style of both players doing the same thing, but must bounce off of each other with good teamwork if they want to get a passable score. I should mention that the typical timer for each game is set at 3 minutes, so to remedy any tedium of some of these minigames, after every minute passes, the speed picks up. There's a few team games where each player is doing doing different things, but I noticed there's an inconsistency within these few games where, for example in Order Up, at the halfway point the teammates swap places, again to kind of spice up the gameplay between both players. But in the Tide Piper and Rope Burn, each teammate is locked into whichever position they're initially assigned to at the start for the entire game. The free-for-all games offer a lot more variety within the same minigame. See, even though each game has a basic premise that's very easy to understand, throughout a lot of the free-for-all games there will be added obstacles or a short burst of bonus points up for grabs. These usually are the funner games since they make better use of their 3 to 4 minute timer in terms of keeping the players on their toes, but it's not a necessary factor to be a good minigame, since some of my favorites don't even have these aspects. Keep in mind that this is still a competition and you're all fighting to have the most popularity points at the end of the 3 minigames at any audition spot. But what if you tie with another player? Under normal circumstances this would be very unlikely, but some audition spots only have the 2v2 team games, so if you get stuck with the same teammate on all the games, you gotta break that tie somehow. And what better way than a game of rock, paper, scissors?
By the way, you do in fact play it within the game.
And trust me, yes, I did have to clarify that. I know what you guys are thinking. Come on, TrashBoat, stop teasing us, spill the beans. What's the best of the best the game has to offer? You're in luck because this is a video within a video. TrashBoat Inc.'s Top 5 Spongebob Lights Camera Pants Minigames.
The rules.
There is only one rule, and that is only one minigame is allowed per audition spot, because if not, then Sand Stadium would take over half the list.
It's the glory of genuine talent.
Number 5.
Gladiators, the ultimate competition of whoever can squirt the best. This is the perfect example of a minigame that is non-stop blood-pumping action all the way through. Staying in the ring is hard enough with the other players blasting you and a bumper in the middle, but what if they added another one, and another one?
Number 4.
Inflatable pants is exactly what the name suggests, and if you don't have pants, well, they'll give you some. It's an obstacle course race through Goo Lagoon, making sure to dodge oncoming stray beach balls, sand castles, and palm trees. Finally, don't hit the volleyball net when you are trying to pass by it. That is a top 5 bad feeling, man.
Number 3.
Here's an audition that borders more so on free labor rather than flip the burgers while catching your teammates. Watch out for the nasty patty. I've never worked at a fast food place, so I'm assuming this is how they operate. My hat's off to you, fast food workers.
Number 2.
You want to know what's fun? Committing crimes. Help convicted criminals escape jail while avoiding being spotted by the police. If you can't serve the time, don't do the crime. And by time, I mean a couple of seconds. In the last minute of the game, it gets super tense when trying to dodge all 3 spotlights and avoid crashing into other players.
Number 1.
Like I said, pretty much any game from the Sand Stadium could have made the list. Beats Me is as straightforward as it comes. Whenever your platform's light flashes, it's your turn to repeat Squilliam's beat. Just like the other games, when the tempo picks up, you actually feel the rhythm consume you. And nothing is more satisfying than getting a perfect score back to back to back. Now, I'm not calling for a full-on remake of Lights Camera Pants. I feel like it's a solid party game as it stands right now, but as the wise Hannah Montana taught us, nobody's perfect. I'm assuming that extends to non-living pieces of code as well. There's a few main problems I had with the story mode, and instead of slamming it, I am going to help out the HQ Australia in giving some solutions to make this an even better party game. You and your friends just finished a playthrough of the story mode and you unlock the Silver Story Challenge. Well, that sounds pretty cool. Let's play it. You then realized it was virtually the same exact thing that you just played. For some odd reason, actually I know the exact reason, there's 3 different story modes you have to play through to 100% the game. Bronze, silver, and gold. Of course, on this channel I never use the word different in a serious way, meaning that yeah, across all 3 story modes you have to play through the same minigames and watch the same Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode. The only difference from what I could tell is that with each progressing story challenge, it gets more strict with the popularity point requirements. To pass each audition audition spot, and don't worry, I'll dive into that mess in just a minute. The only variety you can stumble upon is if you're using different characters across each playthrough to see the alternate scenes, but even that wears a little thin as there's only 6 playable characters, so chances of repeating audition winners is kinda high. A normal person's first instinct would be to think, well, I'll just play through the bronze story and call it a day. And yeah, that's fair. Unless you want to unlock all the collectibles. Across the stories, there's little objectives you can complete in the minigames to earn action figures and artwork. As someone who loves collecting stuff, they had me by the balls. I'll let you in on a little secret though. Play through the game normally in the bronze story to experience what the game has to offer. Go on, it's pretty fun. And then after that, enter this code to unlock everything. Yeah. I'm just kidding. For the most part. Here's a more constructive way to retool the game's assets and still keep the 3 story modes. Instead of slugging through the entirety of all the audition spots with each story, let's break up the campaigns into smaller pieces, 3 auditions long. There is an uneven 8 auditions as the game stands, but there are a handful of bonus minigames that don't relate to any specific spot. One of these is a game based on the Flying Dutchman, so how about we add in 2 more similar to that one and make the Flying Dutchman's graveyard our 9th spot so we can distribute an even 3 per story. Besides, the Flying Dutchman is one of the only characters they didn't use in any form in the story mode, which is criminal since he's one of the funniest the show has to offer. And plus, as it stands, the campaign wouldn't hurt to be trimmed down in length some, so having each story take around 30 minutes to an hour would ease up any boredom anyone may feel when trying to complete an entire story with friends in one sitting. The only major side effect this would cause is that the actual episode that's being casted as you move along would have to be altered heavily, which, to be honest, is fine by me since the final episode product is over 30 minutes long. That is a yiggity yikes, bruh. Perhaps you can keep the long narrative across all 3 stories, so that would be even more motivation to complete the entire game. It's been established that per every audition spot, the player with the most popularity points, aka the highest scores between all 3 minigames, wins the role of that audition spot's cutscene. Well, that is still true of course, but there's a small catch. The winner's score has to be higher than a specific point threshold depending on which story you are playing through. If the winner's score does not meet that requirement, then you have to redo any one of the 3 auditions. This is a whole can of booty for multiple reasons.
1.
It's hard to gauge which game to replay because each game has a different point requirement as to what a good point value is. I'm assuming they want you to score around whichever number the high score value is on the instruction screen, but I don't think anybody pays attention to that, and it doesn't show you that on the redo and audition screen to demonstrate which game the players scored poorly in.
2.
If you have a full party of 4 actual people playing, this process is really messy. It's incredibly unfair to whichever player did well on the game you redo, because the original scores are replaced with the new one.
3.
By the time you get to the gold story and maybe a little bit of the silver story as well, you better be spot on with your play. If you mess up even slightly on one of the minigames, then you probably gotta redo it. It can end up in this weird point triangle where one player does well in the first game, and the second player does exceptionally well in the second, and the third player does the best in the third game. And let's say the fourth player did the second best in all of the minigames. Because of that, nobody has enough points to meet the threshold. One person doing very well in a game, not always, but sometimes means denying another person of potential points. If I have to replay the same game over again more than once, I personally will just let the other player win so we can continue on with the game. I gotta ask, where's the fun in that? No, see, I'm still looking. Email me if you find the answer. There's my email. I have a wonderful solution for this. Cut it out. Just take away the mandatory point system. I mean, I don't know of anybody playing who would just actively try to lose under normal circumstances. Getting to a point where you have to redo an audition is a horrible pace breaker. I think they included this to put in an aspect of you gotta be good enough to actually win an acting role like you would in real life. But this is video games, boy. Concerning the cutscenes, there was an interesting choice made by the developers. The way the audition spots are laid out in the story mode are a different order than what corresponds with the actual cutscenes order in terms of the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy Anniversary Special. It's only put in the correct order at the very end when the Sneaky Hermit is cast and the entire 30-minute episode is played. This makes following the story while playing through the game a bit trickier than it really needed to be. I mean, it's not Lord of the Rings or any super long and complicated narrative like that, but it's still an odd choice. I think the devs realized that if they put the story mode in order while showing you the cutscenes after each audition spot, only to repeat the same cutscenes again at the end in the same order, it would have been obvious that they were Giving the devs the benefit of the doubt may be the reason they show you the cutscene after each audition spot is because they wanted to give an immediate reward to the player who won that specific role, instead of waiting till the very end to see it. Alright, so how about this? Instead of showing the entire cutscene, just show off a little teaser, preferably a line or two from the winner's character. This way, you can get a little taste of your prize and try to piece together the episode overall until it's finally played in completion at the end. I hate Gil Hammerstein so much. This hands down has to be one of the worst main hosts in any video game ever. I hate how he's such a kiss up to his boss. I hate how he's demeaning to everyone who's not his boss. I hate the way he speaks, and I hate the way he looks. He looks like a poopy head. Trust me, you'll want to skip every single cutscene this dude is in. The worst part of it all is that he's on the main menu, so I'm forced to look at his stupid face every time I turn the game on. Alright, so this problem isn't that deep, and there's no real solution since the game uses up pretty much every established character, and if we're still going with the whole television producer character, he is needed, I guess. He still sucks though.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the fuck are your parents? Who are your parents?
Other than that, Lights Camera Pants is, like I said, a fairly solid party game that I'd recommend you and your friends play, assuming you have any, if you are fans of the show, since obviously I feel like that would be the people who would get the most out of this game. If somehow in a crazy universe this game gets remade and they make these changes, I'm gonna take all the credit.